Hi, and in this video I'll show you how to split a stereo recording into two mono tracks, first using Audacity and then I'll do it in Adobe Audition. So I've now got the file open. It's part of an interview I recorded. I am on the top track and my guest is on the bottom track, and you can see that when I'm speaking here, broadly speaking, nothing is appearing on the bottom track of where my guest is, and when she is speaking, there's nothing on the top track, or more or less nothing. Now, to split the left and right channels of this stereo track, just go to the top left-hand corner of the track. You can see the track name there and also a little drop-down arrow. So click that, and in the menu that opens, go down to Split Stereo to Mono. Don't use Split Stereo Track, go to Split Stereo to Mono. Click on that, and you can see that the two halves split apart. And the left-hand channel, the upper track, is automatically selected. You can see that it's got a yellow bounding box. Now we want to save this as a mono track. So what you need to do is click on the solo button. Now it is important that you do that because if you select one of the tracks and then go to export the audio, what will happen is that Audacity will combine the left and the right hand tracks into one mono track, and that's not what we're wanting to do. What we want is to have the left and right channels separated into two separate mono tracks. So now that we've soloed the top track, you can see that the bottom track is muted. We can go to File and Export, and then choose Export as WAV. You can actually change this in the next window, but click on Export as WAV, and in the Export Audio window, choose where you want it to be saved. I'm going to save it in the same location, but to do that, I need to change the name of the file, otherwise this mono track will get saved over our original stereo recording. So I'm just going to call it the original name followed by _L. And with that renamed, I can then hit save. If you want to change the metadata tags, you can do that in this window. I don't want to change anything, so just hit OK. And that's the left-hand channel saved as a separate file. We can do the same for the bottom track. Hit solo on the bottom track. That will mute the upper track, and we're just listening to the lower track. Again, go to File, Export, Export as WAV, and again I'll change the name. This time it's going to be the original name followed by R because it's the right hand channel, and hit save. So that's how to save a stereo file as two mono files where you've got the left and the right channels separated out. Now, just to prove that I actually have done that, if we close all of this, don't save, let's go and open, and you can see there's our original stereo file and our left and right. And let's just open up one of those just to double check that we did it correctly. And there you go, there's my voice, there's the section that my guest would be speaking. I come in again, and then she speaks again after that. So let's close that. We'll just exit the program. As I said earlier, I'll also show you how to do it in Adobe Audition. To do that, of course, we need to open the stereo file. There it is. So let's open it. And again, we've got me on the top track and my guest on the bottom track. So what we need to do now with the file open is go to Edit and then go down to Extract Channels to Mono Files. Just click on that and you can see that the screen has changed, and in the Files panel here, there's our original file, and then we've got two additional ones. and beside them you can see that there are asterisks, and that's because that's indicating that those files have not been saved yet. So we have a left and a right, and you can see that Adobe Audition's already given the files names. They've done exactly what I had done manually in Audacity, except in Audition it automatically happens. The convention is file name followed by the left or the right track, L or R. So let's start off with the left track. That's me again. You can see there's silence, or more or less silence, where my guest is speaking, and again towards the end. So let's save this, go to Save As, and just make sure that you are saving in the same folder. Yes, I am. And then click Save, and then click OK. We'll do the same with the right-hand channel. Open up that track. Again, go to File, Save As. That is the same location, so just click OK. And you can now see that both of those have been saved. To just double check that I have saved them both in the correct folder, I'll open up the folder, and sure enough, there's our original stereo track, and here is the left hand and the right hand mono tracks. So let's go back to Audition, and we'll open up my original file, my example recording that I've been using. Now, when I recorded this, I plugged in two dynamic microphones into the XLR inputs 1 and 2 on the base of the Zoom H4n recorder. The top waveform is my voice, and the lower waveform is my guest. Because the voices are on separate channels, when we split the stereo file into two separate mono files, it's possible to process each one independently. In my example, the audio level on each channel is basically correct, so both peak at approximately the same level. However, if my guest had spoken quietly and I hadn't adjusted the recording level, the bottom waveform would have been a little bit lower, and on playback, my guest would sound quieter than I would. Also notice on the recording that when I'm speaking, my guest channel is not completely silent, and vice versa. That's because I was recording outdoors, so both microphones were picking up some background noise. Furthermore, my guest and I were about 5 foot or 1.5 meters apart, so each of our mics was picking up the other person. And you can see on the screen here, if you compare my speech there, the lower track of my guest microphone is more or less a mirror image, but much, much lower than my track. But it's basically my voice that has been recorded, but very, very quietly. It's spilled over onto my guest microphone, and the same has happened with her voice on my microphone. By splitting the stereo file into two separate mono files, it's now easy to process each one individually. For instance, I would normalize both channels to the same loudness levels, and I'd also clean up the background noise and sort out the parts where I or my guest bleed through on the microphone. I'm going to be recording a separate video showing how I clean up the audio and also what tools I use. When it's ready, I'll put a link up in the corner there. Thanks for watching, but can I ask a small favor? Please like, share and subscribe if you found this video useful, and to make sure you don't miss any of my new videos, hit the notification bell. I wish you good editing and look forward to seeing you again next time.